I'm sorry for putting the 11th brother so low, as his design is one of the coolest there is. In general, most Inquisitors do shine through their rather unique designs, which all look pretty great to be completely frank. However, they sadly mostly shine through utter incompetence at their job to hunt Jedi despite their sick designs. The 11th brother to me is the best representative of this common problem that the Inquisitors face, becoming more villains of the weak instead of feared Jedi hunters that should make any Jedi tremble for their lives. He was the Inquisitor introduced in Tales of the Jedi. His true identity remains a mystery, as his name and history as a Jedi before the rise of the Empire have never been revealed. The 11th brother was sent to a remote farming village after the Empire received a tip about a Jedi hiding among the locals. That Jedi was Ahsoka Tano, who had returned to the village after delivering a harvest. When she arrived, she found the settlement all set on fire and the 11th brother waiting for her. Recognizing Ahsoka immediately, the 11th brother engaged her in battle. Despite his training, he was quickly outmatched by an unarmed Ahsoka, who managed to disarm him and kill him using his own lightsaber in one quick move. What a shame. The only feat we see him do is burn down the village, and that's it. Obviously, he could have fared better against other Jedi, but with what we saw, I think last place is well deserved. Next up is the 6th brother, who was once a Jedi named Bill Valen. Early in his training with the other Inquisitors, Darth Vader severed his lower arm during a training session, teaching him the brutal reality of the program he had devoted himself to, and also further pushing him down the dark side. He participated in several missions, including a hunt for the Jedi Padawan Farron Bar on Mon Cala. There, the clone purge trooper turned on them, and the 6th brother fled by chopping off the 9th sister's leg to make her a sacrificial lamb, so to say. Later, and this will sound very familiar to the 11th brother, he seeked a greater challenge and traveled to the moon Rada, tracking a rumored Jedi. To lure the Jedi out of hiding, he started killing some of the farmers and taped himself doing it. His plan worked, and his target revealed herself to be none other than Ahsoka Tano. Despite being unarmed, Ahsoka was able to hold her ground against him, and then use the Force to pull the kyber crystals from his lightsaber, causing the spinning lightsaber to overload and explode. The resulting blast killed the 6th brother instantly. Ahsoka later purified the crystals from his weapon, using them to craft her iconic white lightsabers. So yeah, another Inquisitor who couldn't beat an unarmed Ahsoka, thus low on the list you go. Also extra minus points for chopping off the 9th sister's leg. Speaking of which, the 9th sister was once a Jedi Knight known as Masana Tide, and is a female of the Do'Utan species. She fell to the dark side after being captured and tortured by the Empire, breaking under the pressure and eventually joining the Inquisitorius. Just by looking at her stature and size, you'd think she's quite a menace and a formidable foe, right? Well, this couldn't be further from the truth, sadly. During a training session, Vader carved out one of her eyes to teach her a lesson. On Mon Cala, she got her leg chopped off by the 6th brother during their mission. Most notably, though, she gets beaten by a barely trained Padawan Cal Kestis on Kashyyyk, where she lost her right hand as well as a huge slash to her backside before being pushed off the tree canopy into the Shadowlands below. But to give her props, she managed to survive each and every single one of these limbs being chopped off. Finally, she once again duels Cal Kestis on Coruscant, who beats her with relative ease before he finally beheads her when she makes a final desperate charge. I do kinda feel bad for her though, but Cal did release her from her tormented life of having each of her limbs being replaced by cybernetics due to the many losses she managed to accumulate. I guess she is quite a big target. Next up is Twi'lek Yulana, who was a Twi'lek and whose Inquisitor designation remains unknown. Him and another Inquisitor, Isket, had built a great friendship throughout the Clone Wars and had the rank of Jedi Knight, in fact. He was part of the Jedi who was rushed to knighthood due to the lack of generals during the Clone Wars. When Order 66 was issued, Twi'lek was betrayed by Isket and left to die as she chose to join Palpatine's cause. However, he managed to survive his injuries and was then converted to an Inquisitor. He then had a short duel with Isket after becoming an Inquisitor where he beat her due to Isket getting overwhelmed with her feelings for him. He eventually gets killed by Vader when his relationship with Isket is discovered. There isn't much to say on him, and it's not too clear to me how strong he really was, but considering he was granted knighthood by the Jedi, albeit being rushed, I think he must be quite strong still. Also, he did block a lightsaber from Vader that was supposed to kill Isket, which I'll grant him extra points for. Twi'lek's sister in crime was the 13th sister. She was once a Jedi Knight named Isket Akaris. As a Jedi, she was a Padawan when the war just broke out, even being present during the first Battle of Geonosis and witnessing her master being killed by a Geonosian soldier. Just like Twi'lek, she alongside Anakin Skywalker were granted the Jedi Knighthood together. However, she was sent on a very few missions for the Jedi, leaving her frustrated to not be able to take a bigger part in the war. During a short meeting with Chancellor Palpatine, she revealed to him her frustrations with the Order, making him aware of her susceptibility to the dark side. Throughout her time as a Jedi, she had grown a special bond with Twi'lek. After Order 66 was issued, she was spared by the clones on order of Palpatine and brought to Coruscant. There, the Grand Inquisitor made her the 13th sister, and she joined their ranks. There, she met up with Twi'lek once again, and the two fought. During their fight, she realized that she still had affection for him. Years later, the two worked together on numerous missions, including the hunt for Jedi Master Eth Koth. However, their growing bond became their downfall. Upon their return to Coruscant, Vader, now that he had spent some time with them on the mission, sensed their connection and viewed their relationship as betrayal. Without hesitation, he ignited his blade to strike the 13th sister down, but his blade was caught by Twi'lek. The two lovers managed to escape, and a chase ensued through the streets of Coruscant. Vader caught up with them eventually and used the Force to lift them up and impale each other with their own lightsabers. I'm not sure if this ranking is right, but considering Palpatine himself saw potential in her, it is quite a shame that she didn't seem to have achieved much. Heck, she even lost to the 7th sister in some of their sparring sessions. So yeah, I think she's well off here. The 4th sister, or Lyn Rakish, was part of the Nogratu species, and was a former close friend of Barriss Offee during their time as fellow Jedi. After surviving Order 66, she joined the Inquisitorius, and due to her connection with Barriss, she spoke out in her favor to take her into the Inquisitorius program. After Barriss converted to their side, she frequently went on missions with her in the name of the Empire. But Lyn's cruelty eventually made Barriss turn back to the light side and leave the Inquisitors. Years later, Lyn tracked a Force-sensitive child to an ice planet, and to her surprise, the child's guardian was none other than Barriss. She tried to hit Barriss, but Barriss simply dodged her strikes to buy the family time to escape into a labyrinth of ice caves. Lyn realized that Barriss was just stalling and left for the ice cavern. Before leaving Barriss behind, Barriss gave her a word of caution, telling her that she'd never return from the cavern should she enter it. Lyn, though, ignored the message and went after the family into the labyrinth. In the caverns, though, she quickly realized that Barriss's warning became true, and she got trapped in the labyrinth. Furious at her state and becoming desperate, Barriss's voice then appeared, offering Lyn a way out of the cavern and asking her to leave the Inquisitor's ways behind, calling out her fear. Lyn became even more desperate and started slashing the icy walls before accidentally stabbing Barriss, who had come to show her the way out. Lyn caught Barriss's limp body, overcome with remorse. Barriss forgave her, and Lyn then carried Barriss's body out of the cavern under her guidance. It's unknown what happened to either of them after that. I really don't know where to put her as in power level, but we haven't seen her really fight anyone notable aside from Barriss, who completely outclassed her. Thus, I'd rank her rather low for it. Next up, the 5th brother. He was a former Jedi initiate from the planet Artemisium and grew disillusioned with the Jedi Order after witnessing the Republic's disregard for his home world. After the fall of the Republic, he willingly joined the Inquisitors. Although he did see himself as incredibly strong and above someone like the 3rd sister Reva, we never actually see him follow through on any of it. During the hunt for Kenobi, he's kinda just there, but we literally never see him fight. Instead, he just bullies Reva around a bit, and that's it, never making any effort to actually hunt for Kenobi. So yeah, in my eyes, he's just a huge yapper and nothing more. Following the death of the Grand Inquisitor at the hands of the Ghost Crew, the 5th brother, alongside the 7th sister, were tasked with hunting the 2 Jedi responsible for the death of the Grand Inquisitor. He clashed multiple times with Kanan and Ezra, as well as fighting Ahsoka on 2 occasions. Sadly though, he rarely achieved anything, most of the time being bested quite comfortably by Kanan or even Ezra. However, to give him props, at least he didn't die to them ever, and did usually put them on the run. During his final encounter with the Ghost Crew on Malachor, the 5th brother, along with the 7th sister and 8th brother, engaged the rebels in battle. However, unfortunately for them, Darth Maul was also on Malachor and had teamed up with the rebels. After Ahsoka slashes his lightsaber apart, Maul swooshes in and kills the 5th brother. Probably a more solid Inquisitor, as he did at least manage to fend off Maul and Ahsoka for some time on Malachor, but still ultimately hasn't done much else. The 7th sister was a Mirialan Inquisitor and was trained by none other than Jedi Master Ila Secura. Early in her time as an Inquisitor, she developed a rivalry with the 13th Sister, often engaging in sparring matches during training sessions. In one of these training sessions, the 13th Sister threw spider bats at her with the Force. This inspired her to start using Seeker droids to help her on her missions. She also used the Seeker droids once to electrocute the 13th Sister as revenge for her getting injured during one of the sparring matches, and enjoyed her sister's pain a lot. After the death of the Grand Inquisitor, the 7th Sister worked closely with the 5th brother, primarily targeting the Ghost Rebel crew. She frequently clashed with Kanan and Ezra, however failed repeatedly to beat the Jedi duo. At one point, her hunt for the duo also led her to confront Ahsoka Tano. However, Ahsoka quickly outmatched her, beating her without even using a lightsaber and completely embarrassing her. Alongside the 5th brother, she engages Maul, Ahsoka, and Kanan on Malachor and does hold her own for some time. But like most Inquisitors, she was too arrogant in her own abilities and decided to confront Maul and Ezra by herself. Maul quickly broke her Force shield and choked her with the Force, lifting her in the air and holding her there for Ezra to strike down. Ezra hesitated, and the 7th Sister thought for a second she could break free from Maul's choke and strike at Ezra. Maul, though, didn't let that happen. After she released herself from Maul's choke, he threw his double-bladed lightsaber at her, slicing her upper body in half and instantly killing her. Overall, I'd say she's on a similar power level to the 5th brother, just a bit more cunning. Perhaps that's why I put her above him, as the 5th brother's just more of a brute. Next in line of the Malachor trio, the 8th brother. He was a Tyrellian Django jumper who wanted to claim the title of Grand Inquisitor for himself after the demise of aforementioned Grand Inquisitor. The 8th brother thus started to hunt the former Sith Lord Maul, whom he only knew as the Shadow. The 8th brother eventually pursued Maul to the Sith world of Malachor, where he hoped to capture or eliminate him. To his surprise, though, he found Kanan, Ezra, and Ahsoka there and engages them for a short while by himself, though he is mostly just fleeing from the trio. He is very acrobatic and quick, as that was kind of part of his species' biology, and does actually seem like a genuine threat every time he engages them. He even manages to beat Kanan on one occasion on top of the temple. But as the fight went on, he eventually started losing ground, especially after the 7th Sister and 5th brother both died. This led to his lightsaber being damaged, and as he tried to fly away with it, it malfunctioned mid-flight, sending him plummeting to his death in the depths of Malachor. Cool design, I always liked him. I'd say he deserves this spot for holding his own against Ahsoka and Maul, as well as beating Kanan. The 10th brother was a blind Miraluka and was once the Jedi Master Prosit Dibs. This made him probably the highest-ranking Inquisitor, as he wasn't a mere Padawan or knight before being converted. During the Clone Wars, Dibs was actually outcast after he attacked Mace Windu on one of their missions, as he started to believe that the Jedi had strayed too far from their original path. But he was swiftly defeated by Windu and brought before the High Council and assigned to the Jedi Archive so he could reflect on his viewpoints. After Order 66, with the fall of the Order, he abandoned the Jedi way completely and joined the Inquisitorius, taking on the title of the 10th Brother. As an Inquisitor, he participated in the mission to Mon Cala, where he and a few other Inquisitors pursued Farron Barr. The 10th Brother was caught off guard by the Purge troopers that were turned by Barr and was swiftly executed by the clones, making him one of the earliest confirmed Inquisitors to die during the reign of the Empire. The reason I have him so high on the list, despite his only feat being to die to the Purge troopers, is because he was a Jedi Master, which must mean he has some more pedigree over the other Inquisitors. The rank of Master was not one to be easily reached, and required a lot of knowledge in the Force. And to his defense, just like the other Jedi Masters during Order 66, he was surprised by the clones, which led to his death. Perhaps he would have been quite strong, actually, but for now, this is the spot I gave him. Okay, look, I know she's unpopular, and I don't like her either, but just from a power and competency standpoint, we do have to give Reva, also known as the Third Sister, some credit. She was a youngling who survived Order 66 despite being stabbed, as she just clung on to her hatred for Anakin. In circumstances that are unknown to us, she ends up being found in the gutter as the Grand Inquisitor describes, and was then trained as an Inquisitor. As an Inquisitor, she made it her sole mission to get revenge on Vader, and her way to get there was to find Obi-Wan Kenobi, as that was the only Jedi left that would be of interest to Vader and would get her a promotion that way. Once she was the Grand Inquisitor, she thought she'd be close enough to Vader to kill him. So she then dedicated as much of her time as possible to find Kenobi, and even succeeded in drawing Kenobi out of hiding. This is actually quite a big feat, even though it was super convoluted in the way she drew Kenobi out, and it opens a myriad of other plot holes, but still, if we just look at it on the surface level, she did succeed at her job. Obviously, we don't see her win any fights, but she does manage to incapacitate the Grand Inquisitor by stabbing him. Throughout the Kenobi show, we see her actually achieve her goal of getting close to Vader, and thank the Lord she got absolutely humiliated by him, as he doesn't even bother drawing his own weapon to kill her. But somehow she does survive being stabbed twice, and even managed to fly across the galaxy with a stab wound, and miraculously heals. Thus, she has powers we just don't know anything about. But just for the people who will be hating on me for this, I'll put her at the number 10 spot. Down you go, Reva. Goodbye. Coming into the top 5, we have the second sister, who was formerly the Jedi Padawan Trilla Siduri. After the fall of the Jedi Order, Trilla and her master Seer hid a group of younglings from the Empire. However, her master Seer was captured, revealed the hiding spot of Trilla and the younglings. The Empire quickly dispatched purge troopers and other Inquisitors to their location, capturing Trilla. As Trilla felt betrayed and left alone by her master Seer, she started to succumb to the dark side from the Empire's torture and blamed all her suffering and pain on her master. As an Inquisitor, the second sister was probably the most ambitious and cruel Inquisitor of them all, taking great joy in chasing and tormenting her prey. Although we don't know anything about her other missions, we get a good glimpse of her during her hunt for Cal Kestis. She had an incredibly menacing presence, and every time she showed up, you knew you were having trouble. Trilla managed to track Cal down, engaging him on 2 occasions, and succeeding in acquiring a holocron with a list of Jedi younglings. In a final duel, she's beaten by Cal at the Fortress Inquisitorius, though. With Trilla being beaten and at her weakest moment, she showed a rare moment of vulnerability and began to reconcile with Seer. However, before any sort of redemption could take root, Darth Vader arrived at the scene of the battle. All he remarked was that the second sister had failed him, and then executed her without any further hesitation. Now, what makes her stand out from any of the other Inquisitors on this list so far? Well, she actually friggin' wins at some point. She manages to get the holocron and also defeats Cal, so for that alone, she deserves this high of a spot, despite not having dueled the likes of Maul or Ahsoka. The first brother Marrok was an Inquisitor introduced in the Ahsoka series. He survived Order 66 and was offered to become an Inquisitor. As their member, he was referred to as the First Brother, likely meaning he was one of the first to join their ranks, and we do see that he's very skilled. He was thus present when Barriss Offee was recruited into the Inquisitorius, although he was more in the background. At some point, he was sent to hunt down Darth Maul, and likely he perished there, although that's unconfirmed and just a rumor at the point of this video. Years later, Morgan Elsbeth revived Marrok's dead body with the help of Night Sister magic, having him help her relocate Grand Admiral Thrawn alongside Baylan Skoll and his Padawan Shin Hati. In her missions for Morgan, we see him not only going toe-to-toe with the New Republic in a starfighter, but also single-handedly fending off Ahsoka in their first duel. Finally though, in their second duel on Cedos, Marrok, despite putting up a good fight against one of the strongest Force users in the galaxy at that point, was beaten after being slashed across the torso by her. In his second demise, green mist came from his body as the Night Sister magic left him, and he died for good. But for this feat, I'd say he's definitely one of the strongest Inquisitors we've seen ever, and is well up there as one of the most competent Inquisitors. Coming in at number 3 is actually the newest member in the Inquisitorius. This Inquisitor was introduced this year in the Tales of the Underworld series as an antagonist to Ventress. It's still unknown what his designation was, nor what his name is at this point in time. However, going by the list, I'll just call him the 14th brother. Or, if you prefer a name, his voice actor's called Daniel Ross, so Daniel would also be fitting, I guess. Just like all the Inquisitors, he was a former Jedi and ended up in their ranks. One day, he hunted down the Jedi Padawan Lyco Strata to a remote desert world. To his surprise, the Padawan was being helped by none other than Asajj Ventress, who had kept a low profile due to Force-sensitive beings being hunted across the galaxy, but decided to help the Jedi escape. The Inquisitor ignited his lightsaber and engaged Ventress in a duel. He was incredibly strong and held his own very well against the former apprentice of Count Dooku, managing to knock her into the ground several times. He even managed to beat Ventress using 2 lightsabers, managing to disarm her completely. When he was about to deliver the final blow, though, Lyco managed to sneak up behind him and stab him through the back with Ventress's lightsaber. And with that, one of the strongest performances of an Inquisitor against someone as strong as Ventress. Congratulations, Daniel! You are officially the strongest Inquisitor we've ever seen, and should be granted the Grand Inquisitor title immediately. At number 2, I've got Barriss Offee. She was once a dedicated Jedi Padawan under Jedi Master Luminara Unduli. However, we all saw how she betrayed the Order and her friend Ahsoka. Throughout her life, though, we see her going toe-to-toe with Anakin Skywalker of all people, as well as Asajj Ventress, despite being beaten by the former. Still, her duel with him did show how strong she could be if she was fighting for her life. After the fall of the Order, she was recruited into the Inquisitorius by the Grand Inquisitor after killing 2 other Jedi to win her place. We do see her spar with the Grand Inquisitor as well, but she's beaten by him mostly before managing to land one force push on him. However, I do think this could be attributed to her being a bit rusty, as she'd been locked up for quite some time at that point. As a full-fledged member of the Inquisitor, we don't really see her do any crazy feats though, not even which Jedi she hunted, if even any at all. Eventually, she turns on the Inquisitors as she never felt quite right there, and becomes a wandering healer, turning back to the light side of the Force and most likely being stronger than ever. Years later, her paths with the Inquisitors would cross again while helping a family with a Force-sensitive child. The child was tracked down by her former friend Lynn. Barriss then offered to distract the Inquisitor long enough for the family to escape, but is accidentally stabbed in the effort after trying to talk sense into Lynn. I'm not sure if she survived, but it's more likely than not, I'd say. Finally, at number 1, was there ever even a doubt? It's of course the Grand Inquisitor. He was a male Pauan and the leader of the Inquisitorius. Before becoming an Inquisitor, he used to be a Jedi Temple Guard during the Clone Wars, achieving the Jedi Knight rank. He grew disillusioned as the Jedi didn't grant him full access to the archives which he wanted to study, as well as after seeing Barriss talking up against the Jedi during her trial for her bombing. After Ahsoka's trial, his faith in the Jedi was all but gone and he started flirting with the dark side. During Order 66, he trapped his fellow Temple Guards in a room, which is why they're absent during the fight in the Temple, and it's not clear if he potentially even killed each one of them himself. He saw that as his way of showing his loyalty toward the new Empire. After the fall of the Republic, he got approached by the Emperor to serve under the Inquisitorius, and through that gain access to the Jedi archives. As the Grand Inquisitor, he served directly under Darth Vader, becoming one of the Empire's strongest tools in eradicating the Jedi. His knowledge of his former comrades, learned from the Jedi Temple records that he could now access, made him the most competent hunter, as just from seeing the fighting style of an opponent, he quickly knew how to adapt. Also, he was very proficient in Form 2 saber combat Makashi, the style that Count Dooku used. During his time as Inquisitor, he even got the chance to face and kill Jocasta Nu and was only stopped by Vader after beating her in a duel. There is the small mishap with Reva, I guess, where he gets stabbed, but it's Disney Star Wars, and somehow he returns and is back to normal. Sometime later, he faces off against the young Jedi Kanan Jarrus, who had just revealed himself. Kanan foolishly infiltrates the trap he'd laid out by using the deceased Luminara Unduli's body to lure Jedi to him. Yet, due to the help of Kanan's friends, the Grand Inquisitor fails to capture them. After that, he gets sent to Lothal to properly hunt the Jedi down. Throughout several confrontations, although being superior in every way, he failed to capture or kill Kanan and his apprentice Ezra. In a climactic duel on a Star Destroyer above Mustafar, Kanan defeated the Grand Inquisitor after reaching a moment of clarity in the Force, which guided Kanan to his victory over the technically far superior Grand Inquisitor. Having been beaten by Kanan and hanging from the edge of the reactor, the Grand Inquisitor chose to let go and fall to his death rather than face Vader's wrath for his failure. Sadly for him, though, he didn't die there. Darth Vader bound the Grand Inquisitor's spirit to a Jedi outpost on Tempest, forcing him to guard the site for eternity. Years later, Luke Skywalker encountered the fiery spirit of the Grand Inquisitor while searching for a new lightsaber. After a duel with Luke, he was defeated and the Grand Inquisitor's punishment continued. When the Pauan begged for release, Darth Vader refused, leaving him imprisoned in his ghostly form to serve indefinitely. And that's where the story of the Grand Inquisitor ends, serving eternal punishment as his spirit is unable to pass into the Force. But still, the well-deserving #1 spot as the strongest Inquisitor.